Hi everyone, it's Jeannie, and today I'm back to share a trifold card using Sweet Stamp Shop's Reel It In stamp set with the coordinating dies. And for this trifold card, I do need to use a larger piece of paper. I'm using Bristol Smooth paper pad that measures at 11 by 14 inches. And it's longer because I need to be able to fold this piece of paper into threes and have it the size of an A2 card. So to start off, I'm trimming it down to 12 and 3 quarters and also trimming this piece of paper in half. And this actually gives you two perfect pieces for two trifold cards if you wanted to make two at a time. So my paper trimmer is a little bit small, so it doesn't trim it completely, but that's okay because you can just grab a pair of scissors and snip it off to finish off the cut. So once I have this piece of paper, this measures at 12 and 3 quarters by 5 and a half. I'll score both ends at 4 and a quarter. I'm just using my paper trimmer to help score, and using my Teflon bone folder, I'll reinforce the edges. And once I reinforce the edges, I realized that this card kind of has trouble closing because it scored perfectly at 4 and a quarter. So to fix this, I will just go ahead and trim it down just a little bit. I suggest trimming it down by 1/8 inch because I did it by 1/16 inch and that was very little. And it still didn't close great. It was able to close a lot better, but I think 1/8 is just the perfect measurement for it to close nicely. So you'll see that I realize that and I go back and trim it down just a tad bit more. And this really just helps with the whole trifold. So the idea behind the trifold card is that an image will go through three different backgrounds in the card. So I have this folded and this is the very front panel. I'm using the large fisherman image from the stamp set and I'm using my Misty to help me do this. I think that the Misty is super helpful in this situation because I do need it stamped in the same exact position. You'll see that I toss a post-it over the image, and that's because I use Momentum Tuxedo Black ink on Bristol paper. It is smooth, so it does not dry very quickly, and I wanted to use Copics with them. So I just put a post-it just to protect the rest of my card so it doesn't transfer anywhere. It doesn't really matter about the image not stamping great on these first two because we'll be die cutting them out anyway. So this is the second panel and I'm stamping on the right hand and left hand side of the card. So I'll pull out that coordinating die and I'll be adding it to the card so I can die cut these two images that I just stamped out. So once I put that die over that image where I want it to go, I'll use a bit of washi tape just to hold it down. I have a lot of washi tape, so I use this often for die cutting. So I'll go ahead and die cut the first panel. This is the very front panel. And then once I carefully remove that, I'll be moving on to the second image we had stamped. And this is actually the front panel of the card. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing. I'll put the die over the image and tape it down with washi, open it up, and then run it through my die cut machine. I just want it to die cut the one layer only. I don't want it to die cut through the card. So I'll fold this card back, the panels back, so I'll be stamping on the very back panel of the card. I'll go ahead and put it back into my Misty and stamp the image. And this is the image that actually matters. And I had a hard time getting a clean image of it for the first two times because I realized I had die cut it and so the paper isn't even anymore. But that's okay because I'll actually go back with a Copic Safe pen and outline the image just to clean up those lines. So as you can see, once I close this card, you can see through those die cut areas to the back of the card and see the fisherman image that we have. For this card, it's going through three different sceneries. I'm having the fisherman fish from morning through the day and then till dusk at night. So I die cut piece of masking paper using a wave die so I can mask off the sky and the water. For this morning scene, I'm using distress inks to create an easy background. I have three, so it's basically like making three different cards. I wanted something really quick, so distress inks are my go-to for quick backgrounds when I just don't have a lot of time to spend on it. So for the distress inks that I'm using, I'll have all the colors listed down below, but for your reference right now, I use antique linen, squeezed lemonade, wild honey, and spiced marmalade. I didn't really like how antique linen looked on this, so I actually went over it with the squeezed lemonade, and I think I was a lot happier with it. So I'm using the other masking part that I had die cut out, and I'm masking the sky now. So for the ocean, I'm using Stormy Sky and Salty Ocean. I didn't want to use super dark colors because it is morning time, so I just did a mix of these blues and I actually change them up for every single scene. I just didn't want to be using the same blues for every color. So I'm moving on to my next panel and masking it off with painter's tape just so I have clean lines. And for this one, this is daytime. For the water, I'm using Mermaid Lagoon and Salty Ocean, and I wanted brighter colors for the ocean since it's daytime. It's a kind of sunny day. I do have clouds in the sky because I didn't want this whole panel to be blue. So I wanted to break it off where the ocean was like this kind of teal color. And for the sky, I'll go in with Salty Ocean. But I do a different technique where it looks like I have white clouds in the sky. So I'm only adding color to certain areas of the panel, and I think that this really helps break up that the whole background so it's not so blue. So I really like how this look. I use this sky technique all the time, and I think it looks really cool. For this back panel, you actually have to mask off this image because this is the image that you will see when the card is completely closed. So I'm masking off both sides of this panel and adding the waves. So for this scene, I wanted it to be dusk. So about sunset, he's about to come home and come back to shore. So I wanted to use some fun colors. So I used carved pumpkin, picked raspberries, wilted violet, dusty concord, and chipped sapphire. So it's a ton of colors, but I think that the progression really works with the colors. Once I start blending it out, the picked raspberries don't really show up as much because the purple really mixes in, but I think that the pink really helps blend between the orange and the purple. And I used two different purples because Wilted Violet is so bright. I needed Dusty Concord so I can mix in the Chipped Sapphire since it's a darker color. I did contemplate whether I wanted to do like a full nighttime scene, but it's probably unsafe to be out that late fishing. So I decided to do like a at sunset kind of feel. And for the water for this scene, I'm using a salty ocean and faded jeans. I just needed a little bit of darkness at the bottom since it is almost nighttime. It wouldn't make sense to have like a super bright blue ocean scene for nighttime. So I'm just going to darken it up a little bit on the bottom. And I think that the distress inks backgrounds just make putting this card together so much easier than actually having to go in and color everything by hand. The only image that I end up coloring is the fisherman himself, and the image isn't even that bad. So once I removed the mask, I had a little bit of white space. You can just go in with a Copic and color that in, and it's no big deal. So for the coloring of this little fisherman and his boat, I'll have all the Copic colors listed down below. Going pretty simple with these colors. I'm using about 2 to 3 colors per area. I think for the boat, I do use four. Since it is a larger area, I wanted to add more dimension to it. And so I do work on that the most out of the entire image. So I've made this card before and I've usually have left the complete die cut masked off. So between his pole, you'll see the orange peeking through from the front of the card once you have it closed. I don't think it's a big deal because no one's going to point that out to you if you're giving away this card. I think that when I originally made it, I had done the same thing and it bothered me so much that I went back, masked that image to match the die cut itself so it stays white. So when you look through the different panels, you don't see the different backgrounds, or it's just like the orange in the daytime, it didn't really make sense. But honestly, it doesn't make that big of a deal for me. So for the stamp set, it has 3 sentiments that I can use for this card, and it worked out perfectly. So for the front panel, I'm stamping really big. The next panel is big birthday wishes. And the third panel will read hip hip hooray. So this works perfectly because it's different sentiments, so you're not repeating the same sentiments, and it just changes it up. And so you'll see me throwing a post-it on top of the sentiments because I'm using Memento black ink again. I just don't want it to transfer. So I colored a few of the fishes off screen and sticker paper, so I'm just going in and adding them so it's not too boring on the card. This card does take a lot of work. It's like making 3 cards at the same time. So I think that this card is pretty cool. You don't really notice that orange. I mean, on the daytime one, you kind of do, but I think it's fine. And if you're still with me for the end of the video, surprise, I have a giveaway. I'm giving out one of Sweet Art Society's subscription boxes, which includes an exclusive stamp set and art supplies to use to create a bunch of cards. If you haven't heard of it, check out the link below. This is open to US and international, so all you have to do is leave a comment below. And for an extra entry, if you have Instagram, come by, follow me, and say hello on the related post. The winner will be announced next week. I'll have all the details in the description box below. So thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.